Okay, we usually do our Democratic Party reports right now. Thora, Paula's with Indivisible. Is there anything to report on local political volunteer efforts? I didn't know if anything was ongoing. If anybody has any local Democratic report to make, go ahead and raise your hand and we can hear from you right now. Paula's got her hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we did have an OCDP executive committee meeting last night that went very well. We're all doing virtual meetings now, it seems, and Von der Darian did a great job of motivating us. We need good leaders like Vaughn and Tom to keep us positive and pointing in the right direction. And I'd also like to mention that we also have Indivisible Fighting 9 is still continuing our efforts. We have sort of taken a step back because everybody seems to need to settle into where we are currently. But if anybody wants to attend our virtual meeting, you can reach out to me in the chat and I will connect you with our Zoom link. This week we are meeting Monday, April 6th in observance of Passover, which starts on the 8th, which would have been our normal meeting night. So we'd be happy to have you if you'd like to join us.
Can you send me that link, Paula, and I can mail it out to the group?
I'm going to send it out tomorrow, Tom. Zoom is changing their security. So you now, as of tomorrow, there'll be passwords required for every meeting, no choice. So once I get that new link, I will send it out to you tomorrow.
Okay, and that'll go for us as well next month. When we meet next month, just pay attention to that. Everyone will need to log into Zoom with a password. They've changed their rules because they've had a lot of hackers hacking into events and meetings and so on. Tim Chikorsky has his hand up.
Yeah. I was on a call with the OCDP Political Action Committee earlier this week, and they were talking about the money that the county party makes from the bingos. The bingos obviously cannot continue. They're not so worried about it currently, but if this were to continue for another month or so, there will be a financial downturn in the county party. So they were asking everybody to make sure that your dues for the county party were paid. And if you did have a little extra or something, just to throw it to the way of the Oakland County Democratic Party.
Yeah, I know a lot of us are members of the county party as well as the Royal Oak Democratic Club. So if you're not a member of the county party, it would be, and you have an income, it would be a good time to join. I will send information on how to join the OCDP in my follow-up email with the other stuff. Paul Weil had his hand up.
Okay.
You're still, go ahead, Paul.
Can you hear me, Tom?
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to comment on the precinct delegates. In Royal Oak, our numbers have not changed. We still have 109 precinct delegate slots. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, the election commission in Oakland County, or the clerk, the election division is not functioning currently, so there has been no update in terms of the number of precinct delegates that will be on the August primary. However, as mentioned previously, our filing date is May 5th, and perhaps what we could do is make the PDF of the precinct delegate filing form available to everyone, and that encourage them to fill it out and send it in by mail before May 5th for all of those who are at all interested in being a precinct delegate to do so. And if anyone needs some additional information, regarding the responsibilities of a precinct delegate or trainings, they are doing trainings online. So when I say they, it's the Democratic precinct delegates of Oakland County are doing trainings, so they're available.
Thanks, Paul. I suppose you still have to get notarized?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so that's that creates a little challenge for us. So somehow we'll have to, then it'll be like a two-step process. So perhaps we can give either your address or my address. I could collect them. You could sign them, and then we could mail them in a group. That would be the way to do it.
Yeah, we'll put all this information out in the post-meeting email, but people can still come by my house and I can notarize them in a socially distanced, acceptable way. So we'll be good with that with anybody who still wants to sign up as a precinct delegate. Anything else, Paul?
Nope, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Nomi Joyrich has her hand up.
I just say this. Michigan Liberation, which, as you probably know, is a criminal justice advocacy program, they're working really hard to try and put pressure on the powers that be to release people, especially from the county jail. 40% of the people who are in the county jail are there on minor offenses or just because they can't pay their cash bail. So I'm going to put a link for a petition in the chat and would love everyone to try and sign that. And, as you know, once somebody gets it there, it's going to go through the jails like wildfire.
Okay, thanks, Nomi.
Thank you.
And Nina Abrams has her hand up.
The OCDP chat yesterday, and she said she thought that they were pretty much caught up, and then sort of gave us all a motivator that the Republicans have sent in 2 large envelopes of precinct delegates, and she thought that the precinct delegates had made it to the Oakland County screen, but she was surprised when she was told no. So if you filed as a precinct delegate and you haven't seen your name come up, then I think an email to Joe or Lisa would be appropriate. I'm also a notary. Paula's also a notary. I'm sure we can work on socially acceptable ways to notarize people. Susan Erica's a notary. If you've got enough people that you could collect, we can do a drive-through. We can figure out somewhere, we'll do a drive-through and maybe even give everybody coffee.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that right after this meeting. Charlene Douglas has her hand up.
Yeah, I just want to, and maybe I missed this, but as my understanding is, existing precinct delegates all still need to run in August. If you are one now, you still have to renew your application.
Alrighty. Are there any more Democratic Party reports? And then right after this is done, we're going to switch to elected officials reports. So are there any Democratic Party reports? Okay, let's go to our elected officials. If you're an elected official on the meeting, could you please click that raise hand icon right now, and then we can call on you and you can give your elected officials report. So State Senator Mallory McMorrow, please go first. Mallory's muted. There we go. Go ahead, Mallory. We can hear you.
All right. Awesome to see 71 people. We just had 72 people here on the Zoom meeting. That's really cool. So I gave about a half-hour update on my Facebook page yesterday, but want to give you guys the very brief rundown on the state's response to COVID-19. And I'm going to drop some links in the chat as well. So one of the big things that happened this week, Governor Whitmer requested a 70-day extension of the emergency declaration. Our office started getting a lot of calls from people who were fearful and upset that this was a 70-day extension of the stay-at-home order. So just so everybody on this call is aware, those are separate things. What the governor is requesting is that the state of emergency, which he has now declared a state of disaster, is extended for a 70-day period, which just allows her to continue the executive authorities and the powers that she has had since this pandemic broke out. And the reason this is important is because this is changing every day and some days hourly. So she needs to be able to respond quickly using the best information out there. So if you hear anybody who's complaining about the governor who wants to keep us in our houses for 70 days, that's not what this would do. Now, all of the other emergency declarations that she's made will still expire on the original date. And if the 70-day disaster declaration was extended, she would continue to have the authority to either renew those or determine that with new information they are no longer required. So things like school closures, the stay-at-home order, all of the executive actions that she has taken during this pandemic, she would either be able to renew or let expire. This is something that has been requested of the legislature. So the legislature will be meeting this coming Tuesday. I penned an op-ed that hit the Free Press yesterday and will be in the print version. If you're still getting the print Free Press tomorrow, keep a lookout for that. We are one of few states in the country that does not allow legislators to meet or vote remotely. Particularly in the wake of this pandemic, many states around the country have passed legislation to allow legislators to vote remotely, frankly, for safety. I mean, one of my big concerns is that as a legislator from Oakland County, Southeast Michigan, that I may have this virus. I don't know that I have it because we know now the CDC says up to 30 to 40% of carriers are asymptomatic, that I'm going to go to Lansing. I'm going to touch, doors and knobs and desks and buttons and whatever, even with as many safety precautions as possible, that I will unknowingly transfer it to one of my colleagues. And then we're going to see this pandemic spread across the state. So it's a recipe for disaster that all of us are going to descend on Lansing from all of our corners of the state and then go back. So I've raised the flag on that, and I'm hopeful that the governor, there is an obscure part of the Constitution that says that should the seat of government be unsafe, that the governor can convene the legislature in another place. Granted, the last time our Constitution was approved was in the 60s, but it could be interpreted that a place could be a virtual place. So we'll see what happens, but my hope and my ask, and I know Mark Brewer and many of the other kind of people on the progressive side, Democratic side, who take this very seriously, particularly from Southeast Michigan, want us to protect the rest of our neighbors across the state. So I'm advocating for that. Other big things that have happened, closure of schools for the rest of the year. That was an executive order that came down this week, and we had received in our office, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of emails and phone calls and social media posts from teachers and administrators and families throughout this pandemic looking for guidance. So this was the right move. We know that young people are likely carriers of this virus, and it's just sort of a recipe for spread if we continue to have kids coming to school, picking up a virus, bringing it home, transferring it to their parents or people who are immunocompromised. So it's the right decision, and our schools and all of our teachers feel very relieved, it seems like, that an executive order has been made. So in that executive order, school facilities will be closed for the remainder of the school year unless the governor indicates it is safe and lifts that restriction. But school districts must develop a plan to continue providing instruction to students. Schools must also develop a plan to continue providing food. That has been something that has been absolutely critical across the state, is that kids and families have access to food through the school delivery system. School districts must develop a plan to pay all school employees, and that's going to be something we are going to have to figure out in Lansing. Treasury came out with an estimate that said Michigan is on track to lose $1 to $4 billion in revenues this year. And that's this fiscal year. Next year is probably going to be worse. Andrew Cuomo has been raising this as well, that we're going to need federal government support to keep funding our basic things like school. So that's on us to figure out long term. Spring assessments, so standardized tests have been canceled for students, but rising seniors can complete the ACT or SAT in the fall. And districts have to develop a plan to give grades to seniors, award credits for graduation, and basically keep everybody going. So that's that. One of the big questions we have gotten this week that I talked about yesterday was a lot of people are reaching out about landscaping services and asking if these can continue to stay open. If any of you watched the governor's television town hall that she did this week, which was fantastic, one of the things she brought up is even if you work in a job like landscaping where you're not physically in close contact with other people, imagine every step you take to get to that job. You leave your house, you touch your truck, you go to the gas station, you touch the handle, you put it into your truck. We know that this virus lives on surfaces, particularly metal and plastic surfaces, for multiple days at a time. So until we get a vaccine or a treatment, really anything that is non-essential is included in the executive order and is prohibited. So that includes landscaping. So for those of us who are home, we should cut our own grass for the time being. It's good to get outside. We've been getting a lot of questions about unemployment. We know a lot of people are filing for unemployment, many for the first time. The state is seeing an overwhelming number of applications, and the department is very aware that the system is struggling to manage that load. So I know the department is planning on hiring new people to help support that load, but in the meantime, and don't kill the messenger here, the best advice I have, if you or somebody you know is looking to apply for unemployment and they've had a tricky time getting onto the system, is set your alarm, wake up at 2 a.m., and try to file online when traffic on the site is lowest. If you have any issues or there are specific questions, we are getting all of that information to put on our website, so you will have that information. But if there's somebody who's been denied and they think that they deserve to be on unemployment, have them reach out to our office and we can flag it with the department to help kind of push that through, because we want to make sure everybody's okay. That's it, unless there's any questions. Like I said, I'm going to drop a couple of links into the chat right now. And if you're not following my Facebook page, please do. I'll drop a link to that in there. I'm doing regular updates, video updates. We're going to be doing virtual town halls and all kinds of stuff just to keep connected and keep everybody up to date, because the amount of news is just like a fire hose every day. So I know that.
Okay, elected officials, please keep your hands up, so we're going to call on you. But if anybody has a question for Mallory McMorrow, if you could click that raise hand icon right now and we will call on you. Ellen, go ahead. Unmute yourself first and then start talking.
Unmute myself.
There you go. You're good.
Am I good? Okay. Hi. I don't remember if this was covered in the governor's town hall. I only caught part of it. Are houses of worship still exempt from the do not gather order? That's something I've been concerned about.
Yeah, it's a great question. So houses of worship are not exempt from the order, and that's something that the governor has been pushing. But constitutionally, because of separation in church and state, legally, the state doesn't have recourse to punish them if they choose to continue to gather. So it's kind of this very strange world that we have to live in, and it is, the executive order still applies to any and all group gatherings.
Well, then it doesn't.
Yeah, there's.
It does that's what concerns me, that that houses of worship don't have to follow the same rules. I mean, it's not, how is it, how is it a law, or how is it a rule if they're not held to the same penalty? And I would, provide the example, fire regulations where a certain number of, people cannot meet in a certain place. There are penalties in any building for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've raised that flag. There is one of the city council members in Berkeley, next door, which is one of my communities, posted a Facebook update and a story that hit the news about, the executive order had already been given and he chose to go to an event at his church, and then wrote, an op-ed saying the government wasn't doing enough. So it is a tricky thing because the executive order was given, but people are still choosing to ignore it. So, the best thing that I think we can do is just tell everybody how serious this is. I know that's not the best solution, and sometimes when there are no legal recourses, people are going to break the law. But in case you haven't seen, the New York Times did a good visualization of who's observing stay-at-home orders, and Michigan is winning. We are not going anywhere. So we're doing what we need to do right now, particularly in Metro Detroit. So the progress has been good. Keep reminding your friends and neighbors. A lot of churches and religious institutions have taken their services online, which is awesome, just like us. So that's where we are right now.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for State Senator Mallory McMorrow? Nomi Joyrich, go ahead.
Hey, Mallory, I just read yesterday that there's were a bunch of anti-abortion protesters who were arrested who are now suing the state, saying that, you know, the sidewalks are still open and they should still have the right to protest in front of the abortion clinics. Do you have any more information about what's going on with that?
That's the first I've heard of that, so no.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for State Senator Mallory McMorrow? Thank you, State Senator Mallory McMorrow. We appreciate your report. Okay, now, Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier, can you hear me?
Hi, Tom. I can hear you. Can you all hear
Mike,
me?
Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier, go ahead and give your report, please.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for making time to get together today. I think this is really great and an agile way that we can continue to stay in contact. Just a few quick updates. The city of Royal Oak, like every other city in Oakland County, we're following the orders given by our county executive and from our governor to make sure that we're keeping people safe. So we've had a few incidents where people haven't been fully complying with what we need to ask of them. And we've taken some measures. We continue to send our police out and inform people why they need to remain socially distant. We've had to take down the rims at our basketball hoops just to make sure that people are, living up to what we need them to do in order to keep us all safe. One of the things I want to talk about that we've done as a city, certainly we have folks that aren't at City Hall now, and we've deployed some of our resources and to do some outreach in the community. I've been having conference calls with the nonprofits and faith organizations in our community to find out where the true needs are and how the city can help and how we can broker a more efficient way of looking out for those that are most vulnerable. If your neighborhood association isn't as strong as maybe some others, I kindly ask if you have time to call the city and see if you can start building your neighborhood association, be a block captain. And we have some tools and things out there that we're using. I know a lot of people want to use Zoom that we're on today and Nextdoor and Facebook, but there are a lot of people in our community that don't necessarily have access or don't frequent those online mediums to get information. And so we're looking at different ways to communicate and sometimes leaving something at the door, working through our block captains in our neighborhoods to make sure that if there is a need, that we can put them in contact with the resources to get them, if it's food, hygiene products, or even just a wellness check over the phone or through the window to make sure people are doing okay. Really encourage you to take a look on our city website if you have access and look for those opportunities. Real quick about police and fire, I just want to do a quick PSA. Our folks are doing really well, serving the community still. They're out there braving the risk of, contracting the virus themselves. Our fire department still asks if you do have an emergency, if you can make it to the front door, that is going to make a significant difference in the fact that we can reduce the potential of infection for our EMS teams. So if you can spread the word and make sure that people, if you do have an emergency or you are suffering from any of the symptoms, if you can make it to your front porch and not have to have our firefighters, our EMS folks walk into the house and risk infection, that's really, really important for, keeping our first responders safe. And finally, I think an important update, you guys will see a press release coming out of the city here probably tomorrow. I had a call last night with General Paul Rogers of the Michigan National Guard, and we were kind of going over some of the activities that they'll be putting into place here in our city. We don't want anyone to have alarm. There's no such thing as martial law. There's none of that going on. However, we will have some airmen from Selfridge Air Force Base that will be activated on Monday, and they are going to be helping out Forgotten Harvest because, it's hard to get people to work right now. It's hard to find the volunteers to meet the growing needs of a number of people in our community. And so the National Guard is coming in to assist with those food deliveries and in those checks, and that's going to be their mission. So if you do see people in our community in uniform, please don't be alarmed. They're here to help us. They're helping Forgotten Harvest, and we should welcome them and appreciate what they're doing in their mode of service. So those are my announcements right now, and certainly I'm open for any questions.
Okay, if anybody has a question for Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier, please go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon. Mike, I've got a question for you. If a person is in need of food or medicine, is there a number they can call?
Yeah, right now, call City Hall. What we're trying to do is, if you haven't got a flyer or you haven't got contacted by your block captain in your neighborhood, please call City Hall. We have employees that are there receiving phone calls, and if the city can provide that help, we will. If we can't, then we know of the nonprofit organizations that can get you exactly what you need in a timely fashion. So please don't hesitate to call City Hall, not 911, but call our normal City Hall number.
You don't have that often. Is it just the one that's listed if you Google it?
Yeah. Yeah, if you Google it, it goes to the city manager's office, and we have Carol and Judy, and we have a number of folks that are able to receive telephone calls during this time. We're also probably going to be doing like we did, Jim Ellison did back during the flood. He was able to send out a call on behalf of the city, like a robocall, so people could opt in. So we'll have that information going out as well, but please just call the normal non-emergency line at City Hall or the non-emergency line for the police department, and we will get you, we have people organized, ready to help.
Okay, does anybody have a question for Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier? If you do, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, looks like we're good. Thank you a lot, Mr. Mayor.
No.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Esther. Esther, did you have a question? Nope, okay. Well, let's go ahead to,
Yes.
go ahead.
Is the Royal Oak Farmers Market open?
As of right now, the farmers market, we're treating it as a grocery store. So it is open. I will tell you that a lot of the vendors have taken, their own precautions. And so, the produce is limited. But yes, we're keeping it open. And the idea, I know we've gotten some pushback from some folks, but understand people need to eat. And if we close down the farmers market, all we do is take those individuals that are buying their groceries from the farmers market and put them into Kroger and Myers and Hollywood and Holiday Market, which, kind of just consolidates people even more. So we feel that the farmers market is taking the appropriate measures of distancing, allowing only a certain amount of people to come in, and the farmers are making sure that, they're doing everything as safely as possible, but we're treating it as a food necessity during this time.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier? And if for some reason you can't figure out the raise hand icon, just go ahead and talk out right now if you got a question for Royal Oak Mayor Mike Fournier.
I actually do, Tom. Hi, Mayor Fournier. Did you say that if we have not been contacted yet by like the block captains in this new Neighbors to Neighbors program, that means we might not have someone? Like, is that process already started?
Yeah, so we rolled it out last week officially, and the block captains are supposed to, generally they know who the people are in the street that are more vulnerable than others. If, I know the young guys that live across the street, I see them, I wave to them every day, but I also have 2 or 3 neighbors on my street that I know a little bit elderly that, we just need to reach out to and say, hey, if you need anything, here's my number, et cetera. And so we formalized that program, but there are some neighborhood associations that aren't as robust and developed as others. And so if on the map you see you're in an area and you want to volunteer to be that captain or to be that neighborhood ringleader, so to speak, we would really, this is probably the time more than ever that we need neighborhood associations to step up and help be a resource and making sure people's needs are met. So there are some blank spots in our city map where some associations just aren't as active. And if that's something you're interested in, please volunteer. And it's not a lot of work. It's just a way to help funnel and channel help to the people that need it.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mayor Mike Fournier? Okay, hearing none. We're good. Well, sorry, Belem, go ahead. Belem, for some reason you're muted. We'll need to unmute you here.
There we go. So I'm just wondering if you know or if you could disclose how many cases of COVID are in the city.
Yeah, that's, we do have, I can pull up the numbers today. I haven't looked at them exactly, but if you go to the Oakland County website, we are doing it by zip code. So you can look at 48067 and 48073 and get the latest numbers of cases. Those numbers are a little bit fluid for the fact that, you know, some people in Beaumont don't have an address necessarily, or it's unknown. And so Beaumont is in Royal Oak, and, you know, sometimes they get mixed in there. Speaking with the county executive's office, and just for privacy purposes, we're not publishing any sort of anybody that perishes from the disease. We're not publishing that by city, but you can see the cases there on a daily basis. And Royal Oak, as of earlier this week, had, you know, close to 70 cases. So 48073 at the time seemed to be a little bit more impacted than 48067. But if you go to the county health website, you can find out the daily numbers. They're reporting them by zip code now.
Thank you very much.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mayor Mike Fournier? And thank you very much, Mayor Mike Fournier. Let's go over to City Commissioner Shar Douglas. Shar Douglas.
No, never mind. I had raised my hand because I didn't see the mayor in the Zoom meeting. So I'm fine. Never mind.
Thanks, Shar. Let's go to County Commissioner Penny Lubes. Penny Lubes.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for doing this. It's a nice way to keep in touch. Oakland, I wanted to let you know that Oakland County is able, you can do text updates about COVID-19 available if you text OakGov to 28748. We also have a help hotline for non-health related questions, and that number is 248-858-1000. And as the mayor mentioned, Oakland County has a dashboard where cases can be found by zip code. There's also other information on the dashboard. As for the county, we approved money for small businesses. In addition to the $1.15 million, a state grant will be matched by the county, and an additional $700,000 will be dedicated to companies that can shift their manufacturing capabilities to produce personal protective equipment. We also at our last board meeting approved a resolution for the Eric overall Memorial Death Benefit Policy. Eric was a sheriff who died in the line of duty in 2017. So in order to honor and assist our staff who die in the line of duty, they'll receive a $5,000 one-time death benefit to help out with funeral expenses. We've been meeting as you are right now. This is very similar. Our board chair, Dave Woodward, who's also here, had the brilliant idea to start an emergency committee. And the commissioners on that committee have been very active in taking care of our government items during this time, so that we're able to help and assist people throughout this time. That's all I have.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Oakland County Commissioner Penny Lubes? If you do, click that raise hand icon. And if you're phoned in and you can't click that icon, just go ahead and speak right now. Belem has a question. Belem?
Hi, is Oakland County still accepting donations for medical supplies? I have a bunch that I order on Amazon, and wondering if you're still accepting those.
Yeah, yes, we are. Donations were taken to the Oakland County Farmers Market, which is still active. So thank you very much.
Do you have anyone that's doing pickup by any chance? I'm trying not to leave the house at all. I'm kind of high risk.
That I don't know. Dave's on here. He might have the answer for that. Otherwise, I'll find out the answer for you and let you know by Facebook, probably.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Oakland County Commissioner Penny Lubes?
Hey Penny, it's Lauren. Could you repeat the text number and the phone number that you gave out?
Sure. You can text OakGov, OAKGOV, to 28748. And the number for non-health related questions is 858-1000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a question.
Sure.
Okay, Kurt von Eberstein here. I wanted to find out about Oakland County. The Royal Oak area schools seem to have quite a good handle on feeding the kids, and I know the Royal Oak Schools Foundation has plugged a hole with Blessings in a Backpack and, what's the other organization? Oh yes, Royal Oak Youth Assistance. And I am concerned about the other neighborhood city schools that are less fortunate and such, and whether or not Oakland County is helping to plug those holes and getting kids fed.
Our money that's dedicated to every school will have breakfast is moving towards that. But all the schools, as far as I know, have a breakfast and lunch program where the kids and families can pick up between certain hours for breakfast and lunch.
Okay. Second question would be internet access for virtual learning. Again, Royal Oak is pretty well covered. We've got a lot of Chromebooks that are going to kids at home, and Xfinity and Comcast has stepped up with free internet essentials for the Royal Oak community. I'm also concerned, again, about the less fortunate communities in getting this access so they can continue their education.
I would agree. That's an area that still needs some work. I agree with you.
Okay. I'd appreciate any updates if they have any, if there's any questions that can be asked by the county commissioners, and help that along, and maybe help the local nonprofits that are handling that sort of thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll research that.
Very good.
Are there any other questions for Oakland County Commissioner Penny Lubes? All righty. Thank you very much, Penny. Let's hear from Chair of the Oakland County Commission, Dave Woodward. Dave Woodward, please go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Tom. And I'm going to try not to repeat anything that Penny outlined. Maybe I'll start with just some of the questions. We don't have an organized system for pickup, and frankly, just out of a county of 910 square miles, it's hard to do. But I'm happy to. I will get them from you and get it up to the county. So I mean, people who have stuff, contact me, contact Penny. We'll figure it out ourselves and how to coordinate those donated supplies. I got a colleague from South Lyon that wants to get some stuff to Beaumont today. So we're working on that. On the schools front, to Kurt's point, every single school district is actually activating their summer feeding program and the waivers, and that's why they actually have an organized plan. Now, some are a little more robust than others in that they're doing breakfast and lunch multiple times a day, sometimes just a couple times a week. I mean, multiple times a week, sometimes just a couple times a week. But everyone's assessment is that it actually is being met. Those needs are being met. In terms from the infrastructure point of view, part of the governor's order, and I turn back to Senator McMorrow, that each school district is tasked by developing a plan, and the superintendent of Oakland schools has to sign off on those plans. And part of that is figuring out how to bridge that gap, whether it's a digital gap, and then if you can't do that, then you have to come up with an alternative to make sure that all kids have access to the stuff. So that's underway, and the county is actually engaged, particularly from the executive, working with the ISD to make certain those needs are being met. And if there are gaps, we'll figure out a way to work together to kind of like to bridge that. So I think in the next week, we're gonna have a lot more information in regards to that, because we've got a lot more clarity from the governor with her most recent executive order. As it relates broadly, just like the state executive order that the senator and the legislature is going to be dealing with extending, our county executive, Dave Coulter, announced the emergency declaration. We have actually already extended it, and we extended it through April 17th, and we did that a few weeks back, and we're expected to do it a little bit longer for the same reasons, to give our executive the authority and the flexibility to be able to meet these needs if things are coming forward. There's also some additional executive orders that Executive Coulter had pushed through. Probably the most noticeable is the increased screening for employees at essential businesses. It is an extra step that every essential business is required to develop and apply a screening of every employee coming in and as they leave. whether that's taking temperature reads or asking a series of questions. And should you fail the question, people are being directed to leave. It's probably the most important thing why we need to extend this order is keep that help the emergency declaration in the county is to keep that in place. Oakland and Washtenaw followed our lead and adopted it, and I think there are a few other counties looking to do something similar. We want to minimize the spread, protect the employees working in essential businesses, but help try to contain the spread of COVID. I've gotten a number of calls. Almost most of our businesses have been good actors and have complied with the stay home order, non-essential business order from the executive, from the governor's office, but we do have some that are pushing the limits and trying to declare themselves essential when they are not. I don't want to turn us into a point where the public is ratting out or reporting on businesses. However, if you see a situation where that is the case, you can, the number that Penny gave, 248-858-1000, that's the official Oakland County COVID hotline. There's a mechanism to have that forwarded. Those type of questions or inquiries forwarded to our sheriff's dispatch, which if it's in this area, would be forwarded to our local law enforcement to look into those. Again, most people are complying. We've got a couple bad actors, and I think, frankly, with the governor's action to really lay down some pretty stiff penalties, I think we're going to get greater compliance. I'm trying to figure out, just got a kind of clarification of some of the things that we've done. In addition to appropriate, Oakland County's really been pushing the lead in terms of identifying additional dollars to help coordinate and secure some of this personal protection equipment, which is incredibly hard to get, largely because of failed leadership at the federal level and being informed that we're on our own and we're not allowed to use the federal resources to address this. Your board is appropriate $6.5 million to date. Now, some of that will probably be reimbursable through FEMA and because of the state of emergency, but some will not. We've also extended emergency hazard pay to our essential employees that have to be activated to support 24/7 operations. We've internally created 80 hours of paid sick time for our personnel who has, it deals with this. And I want to just underscore, earlier this week, we created the Oakland County Small Business Stabilization Fund. So if you know people with small business and you go to my Facebook page that I posted or the county's page, the deadline to apply for these monies is April 6th. So it's coming up on Monday by noon. It's a pretty easy application. There's about $2.3 million available for grants, up to $10,000. And an additional $700,000 to incentivize or bridge the gap to help manufacture retool in Oakland County to be producing more of this PPE, the personal protection equipment that our healthcare professionals and our frontline emergency personnel across the county needs. Our Oakland County Emergency Center, our OEC, is coordinating all of Oakland County's response to all this, has been doing a fantastic job. Some of you might have seen yesterday, Executive Coulter worked with some private plane owners that were actually flying. It's pretty ridiculous that we have to do this, but we're so fortunate to have some great volunteers that are using their private planes, flying to Indiana to get personal protection equipment to fly it back, because we have such a failed federal response to be able to do this. But we're doing whatever we need to do to make this happen. One last thing, Mayor Fournier mentioned about the presence of the National Guard being activated. One reason, and I didn't hear him exactly say that Forgotten Harvest moved their operation that was at TCF, that had to become a mobile hospital, to Royal Oak. And that's one of the reasons why you're going to be seeing their presence here, because they're going to be helping with food distribution. And Gleaners as well has been doing a fantastic job of food distribution across the county. We are actually looking, the state's going to be the ultimate decision maker, looking also at an additional mobile hospital operation at the Suburban Collection in Novi as we hit capacity need. We are on the same trajectory as Italy. The numbers grow, the positive cases and sadly the death cases grow, and you can watch that on the dashboard. But we need to be we need to be in a position to meet the healthcare needs of everybody, and so those things are in the works. So I think that's pretty much on the COVID stuff. I guess the other thing that it's hard to get his attention, and when we're dealing in an emergency state and our lives have changed, but I do want to underscore the importance of the census. If you haven't done the census, spread the word, post it on Facebook. Because of all of this, Michigan's response is a little bit behind where it should be at this time. Our nation's response is down. Moments like this really puts the exclamation point on why it's so important to get those federal resources here. The last numbers I got, and they might be a day or two old, I think Royal Oak was at a 50% reporting rate, Clawson at 51%. It's 10 simple questions. It's confidential. If you haven't done it, make sure you do it. Spread the word. It's really important that we make sure everyone's counted so we get our fair share of federal dollars, not to mention democracy. So I'll stop there.
Okay, does anybody have a question for Chairman of the County Board of Commissioners, Dave Woodward? Ian Duncanson, we got you first in line. Go ahead.
Hey, Dave.
Hey.
My question is, you mentioned about having the screening measures at essential employers. And my question is regarding whether or not we've considered providing priority testing for employees that work in essential functions, knowing that, as Senator McMorrow said earlier, there could be asymptomatic workers who are unintentionally spreading things to everyone that's visiting grocery stores, for example. I'm just curious if we've looked at all at the feasibility of providing actual testing for those employees so that we can identify them more quickly.
The short answer, as much as we possibly can, but as we know, is like getting these tests has been, again, another debacle nationally. We have some operators. I'll just give an example. Honor Health is one of our partners in providing healthcare. They have capacity to do testing. However, they need the swabs, and we can't get the damn swabs. As we're trying to figure that out. I know Clarkston Health is providing testing for first responders and medical personnel. So, on a case-by-case need, but they've got limited capacity. We are working with, I was on the phone yesterday, a part of that $6.5 million, we're purchasing one, maybe even two machines that can do the rapid testing, working with Abbott Laboratories and other things that will increase our capacity, but we're trying to get it. So we don't have it yet, but I would say that to the extent that we have the tests, trying to test and test rapidly the ones we definitely need who are on the front lines, our healthcare workers, emergency personnel, and others. But we need more testing, because here's the reality: not just asymptomatic, but until you get rapid testing. I think I read a report that if 80% of your tests are coming back positive, you're not testing enough, and we're not getting a true picture of what's going on. So, urging people to take precaution. The additional screening is really one of the most robust things that are happening. And frankly, we've got some of the larger employers that are incredibly frustrated by it, but we're forcing it, and they're finally getting to a place to do it. The CDC is going to come through with some additional recommendations on how we can, and we're working on acquiring equipment. We just put in $1 million order for N95 masks, as well as a series of other things that we hope to start getting within the next few days. No other county is actually purchasing that type of quantity, and I can't tell you how frustrating it's been. The stories you've heard the governor talking about, just imagine what's happening. We're one county of thousands across the country. The Fed's scooping up our shipment as it's coming to us, and leaving us without the equipment to protect our workers. And so it's incredibly frustrating, but as we get the ability to do more robust testing, more and more people are going to be able to get tested.
Okay, Paula, go ahead. Paula Mante.
Dave, you mentioned essential businesses are supposed to be testing their staff. I own one of those businesses. Can you tell me where I can find in writing the requirements?
Sure. I think right on the county website. I will. I'm
on your website. I'm scrounging around. I can't seem to find it. So if you could point me in the right tab, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. It's under the health orders, and so it's it's all. It lays out the the description, and it's hard to get a thermometer. There's like 5 screening questions, I think, 4 or 5 screening questions that we're asking all employers to ask their folks, and so I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, William Asher had a question. William Asher, go ahead.
Hi, Dave, and thank you for being here. You mentioned that the Forgotten Harvest was moving its distribution operation for Royal Oak. I'm just wondering where in Royal Oak it is.
Mayor Shar might know exactly. It's in the industrial area by 14 Mile, our industrial park area. I'm not sure exactly what I got word of that when they had to move out of TCF to build the hospital at TCF in that area. I just don't know. I don't know what building or where they found what they have. Shar or Mike, do you guys know? Yeah. So it's in that area, and that's where you're likely to see the military personnel, if you will, helping with the distribution. And elsewhere.
Does anybody else have a question for our Chair of the Board of Commissioners, Dave Woodward? Okay, thank you, Dave Woodward, very much. A question for the audience now. State Representative Jim Ellison, are you on the meeting? Didn't know if you were
here. No, this
okay,
is Jody. Hi. Yeah, he's not feeling well. It isn't respiratory. We don't think it's COVID related. We think it's something he ate, but he is really not feeling well today. Otherwise, he would have been here.
Thanks, Jody.
Yep.
Everybody say a silent prayer for Jim. Okay, State Representative Padma Kupa, please go ahead. Padma, you're still muted. I don't know if you're trying to talk.
I unmuted
There you
myself.
go.
Sorry. Good morning. Glad to be here. Hope everyone's staying home, staying safe. Jody, I hope Jim is feeling better. As you all know, we had a loss in our chamber. I sit diagonal to Isaac Robinson, or I sat diagonal to Isaac Robinson. So it was hard. One of the things I've been hearing besides washing hands and social distancing is also to care for one's mental health. So please, everyone, reach out to whatever resources you have. Do the things that give you mental space and peace. Find the joy within these dark times, because it is something that we must do to fight for what Isaac fought for. In fact, on March 16th, Isaac asked me to join him at a press conference in Detroit because I had just introduced a bill to restore paid sick leave, House Bill 5628. And I didn't go because I have someone in my home who is high risk, who is an asthmatic. And so we went into session on the 17th. We voted on a number of things, including a budget supplemental to give $150 million more in the coronavirus response. The governor went through that and made sure that all of it, $80 million of it, she line item vetoed, including some monies that were supposed to help our district here, House District 41. And I know everyone saw the things that we lost, but I think that we need to stem the loss of lives. And so the governor did do a great job of issuing orders. Now, I'll say this, numbers are high. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the ALICE project, but we really are seeing a steep increase in coronavirus in Michigan because of the high incidence of poverty. 43% of people are not in a position to afford or struggle to afford the basic necessities of housing, childcare, food, technology, healthcare, and transportation. This is a United Way, along with Consumers Energy Foundation, brought this report. It came out last year. Again, I think it was 5 years ago, it released maybe the third ALICE report was released in 2019. And so it's kind of, so we're doing our best. We all have been reaching out to constituents. One of the top questions we get is on whatever the latest executive order is, there's questions. I highly recommend that you follow Facebook pages, whether it's mine or your representative or your senators.
Senator McMorrow, Representative Ellison have also been giving out good information. We have on a Google Drive provided a whole lot of resources for House District 41, like which restaurants are open, where can you go to get free meals, how can seniors get assistance, as well as some of the federal guidelines and the state level executive order information. We've been responding to a lot of constituent concerns about the stay-home order, what's considered critical infrastructure. And so a lot of that, I think Commissioner Woodward just outlined some of those same things that we've been talking about in terms of small business support, both grants and loans. There are nonprofits also that are at risk. And so trying to support all of those needs. The latest question I have is actually from a woman that started a business, actually a couple of different people that started businesses, pulled out money from their retirement and just started it either this month or last month. And what do they do now? Because they don't have anything to show. And so digging into the details of what we can do. I also put in the chat window a link, what I was reading this morning. The federal stimulus package consists of 3 parts. The House Fiscal Agency did a briefing for us. And so it's about 15 pages long. It's a little bit of a dry read, but I think it really explains well what the federal stimulus means for us here in Michigan. As far as that's all on the legislative side, of course, the biggest question remaining is whether we go back into session on Tuesday. The governor has suggested that we not, on April 1st, no fooling, Lee Chatfield tweeted this: "We must continue taking action to fight COVID-19 to keep Michigan families safe. The governor remains in the best position to make these decisions. And then the House will extend the state of emergency next week and allow her to continue partnering with President Trump to save lives." So that little bit of salt at the end about allowing her to work or to partner with President Trump. I don't know about you, but I don't feel that that was a very good statement to make, that last sentence. So I'm a little nervous about going to session if we do have to go. As I said, I have a high risk. Both my kids are home from school and taking online classes. But I don't know what we're going to do on Tuesday if the legislative leadership insists. The quadrant leaders are in conversation with the governor, so we'll find out hopefully before Tuesday whether we need to go or not, and hopefully the answer will be the negative. As far as campaign side, and that's probably a good segue to the campaign side, we must elect Democrats. We have 4 to flip the Senate in the U.S. Federal level and 4 to flip the House at our level, so that we can provide some support to the governor to set an agenda so that we can ensure that not as many people are in poverty. I don't know if, world peace and ending poverty are really great goals to have, but if we can reduce poverty, if we can reduce the number of people in Michigan who are living paycheck to paycheck, who can stay home when they're sick and not infect all the people around them, these are important policy decisions and policy agendas, policies that reflect our priorities, that we care for each other as neighbors, that we care about each other's health. So please sign up with something. I know that we need to help neighbors who need groceries, or if you are donating blood, or whatever else it is that you may be doing to help. Also remember that we must continue to campaign, whatever the campaigning looks like in this new cycle. I can't knock doors. I don't know if you know, last year we knocked 15,000 doors in District 41 legislatively, just to stay in touch with constituents. But in 2018, during the campaign, we knocked 37,000. So I don't know how we're going to reach that. We've already started with postcards. Sandy Larson, she's my friend on Facebook, and many of you may know her from Troy Dems and Troy Indivisible, is running the postcard campaign. We've already sent out postcards to volunteers. We have to start a phone bank to get volunteers now to start phone banking for the voting, making sure people register to vote by mail. And also we need, not for May in Oakland County, we have no elections. However, the Secretary of State is sending out
absentee ballot applications to every district where there is an election on May 5th. And so people can apply to vote by mail. There are people who still need to vote in person, so a precinct will probably be open anywhere there are voting. But since Oakland County is fortunate that we don't have any elections on May 5th, we really need to focus on our April filing deadline. I sent my paperwork in. Obviously, I paid a check of $100 to file that I'm running for election again. And I think most of us will have to do that. I don't know what will happen with judges who require signatures. That is to be seen. I've had people reach out to me and ask about that as well. We're seeking clarification from the Secretary of State's office as well as from the governor, because to do something legislatively will take quite a while to extend the deadline. It would mean that we would need to meet. There are some bills that potentially could be amended. We would need to have the committee, the elections committee meet. That would need to then refer it to the Senate. After we voted on it in the House, the Senate would need to vote on it 5 days later. It would need to come back if the Senate made any changes. So it's a complicated process. So I don't know what's going to happen to the April 21st deadline. We are waiting for clarification from the Secretary of State's office. And they've been working really well with each other. Again, elections have consequences. We have a great team between Attorney General Nessel and the governor, because she has to enforce some of these executive orders and has been helping interpret them. She was also on the APA caucus that I'm co-chair of with Stephanie Chang. We have noticed that there is a heightened fear amongst the Asian American community, the Chinese American community, when people like Representative Bo LaFave refer to this as the Chinese virus, and our president does too. The number of violent incidents and hate crimes against Asian Americans has increased. So we are putting information out there, making sure that people report hate crimes, but please reach out to your Chinese restaurants, because they're also seeing a dip in people buying food. So if they are open to order and you're supporting a local small business, please keep that in mind, that they are seeing. I've heard from people about that as well. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
If you have a question for State Representative Padma Kupa, please click that blue raise hand icon. Ellen, go ahead. Go ahead, Ellen, you had a question? Oh, Ellen's muted still.
Okay, there you go. Padma, hi. Do you have a Republican opponent at this point?
I do. His name is Andrew Sosnowski, Sosnoski. He filed on February 10th with a filing date of February 20th, I think. He ran in the 55th a few years ago, so we know who he is. He works for the Great Lakes Water Authority. He lives in the same precinct as my prior opponent, Doug Teets, but he doesn't have a website up yet. He doesn't have a Facebook page up yet, so I'm sure he's also affected. He has 3 young children. I hope he and his family are all safe, but we're going to run this election regardless of who the opponent is. We're running it same way that we're running, that we ran in 2018, very effectively with as much voter outreach as possible in this time, and as many ways as we can, whether it's phone banking or texting or mail or postcards. We will be doing those.
And how can volunteers get those postcards?
Reach out to, on my Facebook page, Re-elect Padma Kupa. I will put that link in here. The person to contact is Sandy Larson. I'll put that information in as well. She will get you postcards. We printed 2,000 initial batch, and we have a group that used to be known as Sister District Project in California. They endorsed both myself and Senator McMorrow. They have grown. They have seen the importance of state legislatures and holding these seats, as well as flipping 4 more in Michigan and other states. So we are working with the East Bay Activist Alliance, as the San Francisco Bay Area folks are now known. And one of them is actually taken on doing my endorsements and managing my endorsements. I do not have a campaign manager yet. I kept on interviewing, but they were leaving to go to, one person left to go to a legislative position in North Carolina. Another couple of them went to presidential campaigns, and one person just didn't want to commute this far. And that the last time I spoke to her was March 18th. So I haven't interviewed anybody since March 18th. So if you know anyone who's looking for a campaign manager position, I'm looking for someone. But we have a bunch of different volunteers. I have someone managing my website updates. My website has seen a refresh, so you can see all the stuff I've been doing since I got elected. Now that I'm in the seat, I'm able to give more vibrance to the work that we are doing in the legislature and the work that I've actually taken on, whether it's the bill on paid sick leave, restoring that, what citizens wanted and petitioned for in 2018, or other issues such as climate change and our water. I also have a bill that should be out sometime to ask charter schools to be as transparent as public schools when public schools are reporting why can't charter schools, right? So those kinds of things that I actually have policy that I've introduced or have been working on is now on the website. But please go to the website to sign up or to the Facebook page, and I'll put that in the chat so that anyone can see.
And we've got it in the club emails as well, and that'll be in there permanently. Does anybody else have any questions for State Representative Padma Kupa? Okay, thank you very much, Padma.
Thank you.
So the final item on the agenda is just announcements, calendar, good and welfare. And I'll announce that, and you'll get this in the email as well. Next Saturday at 10 a.m., there's going to be a Zoom meeting like this with Supreme Court Justice Brenda McCormick, and then a Democratic candidate for the Supreme Court, whose name I'm forgetting, Elizabeth Welch. That will be happening next Saturday at 10 a.m., and I'll send information out about that. Does anybody have any calendar announcements, good and welfare, things like that? If you do, click that blue raise hand icon. And while I'm waiting for you to do that, I'm going to remind everybody I'm a lifelong atheist, but I'm saying a silent prayer for Jim Ellison right now, so everybody else get on that as well. Mallory McMorrow, go ahead.
Hey, so we've got a virtual town hall coming up on Monday on my Facebook page with Congressman Levin, Representative Manoogian, and myself. It's specifically focused on small business relief and small business owner questions. So if you know any small business owners, if you are one, I know a lot of people, particularly in the restaurant and service industry, are operating on very, very slim margins and are concerned about the future. So please tune in. We're also going to have a representative from the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. So right on our Facebook page, send it out, tune in, tell your friends.
Okay, does anybody else have any announcements or calendar items?
Can I talk, Tom?
Yes.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to share my screen with you real quickly. If you saw it down in the chat on the right-hand side of your screen, I shared this document with you a couple minutes ago. But I do want you to see what it looks like real quick. The board has been putting together a bunch of resources. It's definitely not exhaustive, but there are things on here just if you need some updates in terms of information. There's also resources if you are in need of help. And then lower down there are resources if you're willing to provide help, donations, volunteer opportunities, things like that. I've been trying, as everyone is suggesting things, I've been trying to pop in the stuff that people are mentioning during this meeting as well. So it should be completely updated. Also, if you're financially able to, there's also some suggested donations for some community efforts that just need some cash and some support at this point too. So again, it's not exhaustive, but we wanted to try and collect some of these things, fully acknowledging that there's kind of, like Mallory had said, that the amount of news that we're consuming right now can be kind of overwhelming. So this was in all of your club emails again recently, but if you hadn't taken a look at this, we have compiled it here. So just wanted to share that with you.
Then does anybody else have any announcements or calendar items? Padma, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, Mallory, thank you for reminding me. We also have a town hall on education with Paula Hebert and David Hacker on Thursday with Representative Lori Stone of Warren. So we're doing a cross-county education town hall to answer questions that people may have about what's happening because of the school closure. What can parents do? What can people do?
Okay, does anybody else have any announcements or calendar items? Okay, let's do the 50-50 raffle. We sold 1 ticket and I won. How about that? I've been in this club since 1998 and this is the first time I've won the 50-50 raffle. So I owe you 50 cents, Ian. Unless anybody has anything else, we're going to go ahead and adjourn. I would entertain a motion for that. Somebody move to adjourn. Lauren, somebody.
Yeah, sorry, motion to adjourn.
Alrighty. Everybody who is in favor can indicate by unmuting and saying aye.
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 Opposed? Alrighty. Thank you, all the ayes.
Aye.
Okay, we will meet next month, Saturday, May 2nd at 10 a.m. We'll send out an email with the link. And remember, when you join the meeting next month, you'll have to register and get a user ID and password and all that stuff. So there'll be an extra hoop to jump through. That's not our choice. Zoom is forcing everybody who uses Zoom to do that. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next month.
I had registered with
Thank
them,
you.
but could just.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Hit the right
Okay.
minute.